Hello everyone, it's Jamal Thomas. Welcome to the Progressive Soapbox. So this show is not the show that I'm going to absolutely do. I have another show coming up that's going to be the show in proper in about 20 minutes, so 6:20. But I wanted to definitely flag this. One of my subscribers, I hope he doesn't mind me saying his name, Jeff Kuntz, pointed out to this. He said, hey, take a look at this. And it's not a proxy war when the forces are directly engaged. It's a hot war. Already. Call it what it is. Russia has figured out how to jam United States drones, and Syria officials say, well, why wouldn't they? Russia is aligned with Syria. You're taking operations against the Syrian government. Seeing as they're aligned with Syria, and seeing you're taking operations against the Syrian government, you are inexorably against them, their interests. Like anybody else who's trying to protect their interests, they're doing things to protect their interests. We're in Syria illegally. Say the word illegally. We don't have congressional authorization to do so. We don't have authorization to be there. If Congress wants to authorize a war in Syria, Congress should authorize a war in Syria. They're not doing that. The President of the United States has no authority unto himself. He's not a goddamn king. He's not a king. So if Russia is working with the Syrian government, who are in Syria, and that is the legality of things, meaning they have the legal authorization to be in Syria because Syria has given them the legal authorization, and the United States has decided to align itself with terrorists in that region of the world, then you don't get to bitch about Russia disarming your equipment. This is laughable. This is laughable. The perspective of NBC News, of all these media outlets, are laughable. It's taking a very specific perspective as if they're stenographers without asking any basic questions about what's taking place. Where are the questions? Where are the questions? Four United States officials says Russia's signal scrambling has seriously affected military operations. You don't say. The Russian military has been jamming some of U.S. military drones operating in the skies over Syria, seriously affecting military operations according to U.S. officials. The Russians began jamming some smaller U.S. drones several weeks ago after officials said a series of suspected chemical weapons attacks on civilians in Rubblehead, eastern Ghouta. The Russian military was concerned that the United States military would retaliate for the attacks that began and jamming the GPS systems of drones operating in the area, officials explained. Senator Ben Sasse, Republican from Nebraska, reacted to the news of Russian scrambling Tuesday by saying Russia wants to undermine our interests at every turn. You're in somebody else's country. You're in somebody else's country. Not just in somebody else's country. You're there illegally. You're there illegally. They're aligned with that government. You're aligned with terrorists. Call it what it is. You want to call them rebels? That's a nice way to say terrorists. What does Libya look like, Ben Sasse? What does Libya look like? What does Libya look like? I'm trying to make the point of, you have a track record. We can look at your works. Now, you've decided to attack another country again, another country in the Middle East. This time, that country that you're attacking, that you're trying to undermine, that you're trying to get rid of the actual government in that country, called regime change, is aligned with another foreign power. How far do you want to go? How far do you want to go? It is insane to think that Russia is anything but an adversary, says Sasse. Jamming, which means blocking or scrambling a drone's reception of GPS signal, can be uncomplicated, according to Dr. Humphreys, the director of radio navigation laboratory at the University of Texas. Okay. Yeah. Give me a lot of details without actually giving me information. Good job. Good job. The perspective of this is that Russia is somehow doing something wrong by working with an ally. That perspective is nonsense. For the moment, think. Just think. Not with the point of view that they're forcing upon you, but think. Does this make any sense? Is Syria on the coast of North Carolina? What is the United States constitutional authority of being in that country? Even if you think Syria did the chemical attack, why do you think they did the chemical attack? What interest would Syria have in doing this chemical attack? Meaning, why do you believe that this would be advantageous to Syria? Like, none of this makes sense. None of this makes sense. Even under the logic that they're using for this, none of it makes sense. What does make sense, what is true, is the details. It's missing context, but the details are probably true. If you were Russia, if you were aligned with Syria, you've said that you're not going to let the government fall. In the same way that the United States work with terrorists and give them operations and resources, would you work with the Syrian government, actual government of Syria, to give them material resources and intel? Yes. If you thought the United States was doing something to try to attack the government of Syria, would you try to undermine those interests? Yes, you would. Because you're the legally aligned power with that government. There's nothing wrong in that. The report's coming out as if there's something wrong. It makes sense. Of course that's going to take place. What they're giving you is a perspective without necessarily giving you the wider context of the perspective. What matters here is what it means. What matters is what it means. That means that the United States and Russia are actively engaged in Syria. It's not necessarily to the point of weapons fire, but it is to the point where people in the United States are screaming that, oh my God, Russia is somehow helping this other government that it's militarily and legally aligned with, without giving the details that we're in the country illegally and that we are the invaders. We are the foreign force that is taking ground or taking root in that country. We are the occupiers. That's us. We're supporting religious maniacs. That's us. NBC News is embarrassing. All these news networks are embarrassing. Fuck being skeptical and critical of government power. We're beyond that. We're stenographers. How are they different than RT? Explain to me. How are they different than RT? How? I don't see it. It sounds like they're state media. And it sounds like state media is given a perspective all across the United States. And that perspective is in unison. Think. I'm going to end it on that. I'll be back in 20 minutes. Literally this time, I'll be back in 20 minutes.